This webinar was presented for the subrecipients of the Tennessee Strong Families Grant on May 28, 2024. Mamie Hutcherson, who is the Executive Director of RAP in Jackson, Tennessee, was the subject matter expert presenter. She has years of experience in nonprofit accounting and has served as the financial director on many OCJP grant projects.
I am, as Brooke said, Mamie Hutcherson. I'm the executive director of RAP. We are a victim service organization in West Tennessee. We serve 19 counties and with survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. We also are the provider of the relative caregiver program in Northwest and Southwest Tennessee, which makes us serve 20 counties with that program. As Brooke said, I've had a little experience in nonprofit accounting. I started my career in nonprofit accounting in 1992, and I know some of you were not born, and that's okay. Uh, but I've been around a while. I've done accounting for state grants and federal grants, and worked closely with OCJP for well over 10 years since I've been here at RAP. Our objectives today, just short, sweet, identify some key elements of grant compliance when you're invoicing OCJP grants, looking at a very elementary system of tracking equipment purchases with grant dollars, reviewing allowable and unallowable costs and showing you a travel reimbursement form, and accurately tracking and documenting time for grant paid staff. As Brooke said, I would, if you have questions, unmute and ask, because I know when I'm on these type of webinars, when I have questions, it helps me to get them answered when I think of them and not wait till the end. So please feel free to ask or put it in the chat. Brooke and Chase are monitoring the chat for me, and they will stop me, and I can answer any questions that you might have. One of the first thing is accounting software. So I asked Brooke and Chase to do a poll to see what type of software you all were using. These are some of the examples. Here at RAP, we use Blackboard. I've used it for well over 20 years. Great accounting software for um, agencies, organizations with multiple grants. When you have multiple uh, funding streams and multiple grants, it's the fund accounting software is what you need. Are there any other software packages, programs that you use that are not listed here? If it is, stick it in the chat just to see if there are others. See if I can have. All right. Okay. Ablia MIP. I'm not familiar with that one. The two that I'm familiar with are QuickBooks and Blackboard. So um, software is key to get the documentation and the reports that OCJP requires. One of the things with here at RAP, I have right now, gosh, well over 12, 13 grants. It's a whole lot. And one of the things that I created to make it easier for me to pick the grant that was needed or that I am recording on is my requisition form. Now I know that if you have more than one grant, this is a way of tracking um, the cost of an item or determining which grant you're going to charge it to. So with the allowable cost that you can claim on strong families, If you are purchasing supplies or any anything that you're going to claim on this grant, but it can also be allocated to another grant. This is a good way of tracking how much you're charging to that particular grant to strong families. For example, it's always better for me to give examples like here at RAP, we have specific assistance to individuals. We help different survivors, and we have to make sure that we can track the survivor that we bought the particular item for. So let's say I go to Walmart and I spend $100. Make it real simple. If it is for one person, this is a form that I use to make sure that I keep up with which individual I charged it to, or which individual will get credit for it. Here at RAP, we use participant numbers. Nobody's name. Everything we do is confidential. So if it's participant 555, then I may put it here just so that I know that's who this is for. And if all of that money, if all of this item is going to be charged to strong families, I can put 100% is charged there. You'll see the 100% comes down in the total. The good part is this is where I record my general ledger account number. This will help when you run your reports in order to invoice, and I'll get to that later. But account numbers, this document is attached to that receipt. So when OCJP comes to ask on my invoice where this money, where did you, where's the receipt? This is what I'll be able to pull for them. So you would have your account number, you would have the date you paid it, and whatever the check number is. I print this and attach it to the receipt. It helps it helps to keep up with what exactly you are charging to the grant. And let me say, OCJP wants when you are audited by OCJP or any funder, you want to make it as easy as you can for them to find what you are charging. You don't want them to have to look very hard for anything. And they will be your good friend if you make it really easy for them to find it. That's just my tidbit for today. Okay, let's say you had another grant that would pay for half of this. So half of it was for strong families, and half of it was for a VOCA DV grant I had, which is an OCJP grant. Here in this column, I have counties, but it could be any information that you want to put there. So I would probably use it as the participant number again to put here. That's 50% went to that participant and 50% went to my other participant. This is just a way that you can use to track the expenses that you're claiming on the invoices. You want to be able, like I said, to make it very easy for OCJP to get the information they need, and also for you to be able to substantiate whatever numbers you are claiming. Okay, so let me go back. If you have any questions or if you want these forms, I'll be glad to share. No problem. Okay, hold on. All right. So that's with that's the receipt, that's the source document. When I get ready to bill for a grant. I run an income statement for the month for that grant. That was all of the different grants here. I can run an income statement on every single one of those from my software. This grant that I am this grant that I am going to, that I use for an example today is our VOCA DV grant from a couple of years ago. So when every month at the end of the month, once I have entered all my expenses for the month, I run an income statement and get these. This is the report that I actually get. I use this report to complete the invoice. I know that you haven't gotten your invoice workbook from what I understand, but when you do, it will look like this. This is 1 month. You will have a contract column that will have your contract budget in it. Don't change that. OCJP doesn't ever like for you to change that. If it ever gets changed, they will change it, but don't you change it. So this is your contract budget. The middle column is a running total year to date. Okay, so the tabs would be for my year is July to June. So it would be July, each page, each tab of the workbook would be a different month. The last column here, the actual expenditures are what you will use, and this is the column you will complete. And you would use the income statement that I showed you on the previous screen to complete this column. And let's see, don't type in the middle column and don't type in the first column. Those two columns will, when you get the workbook, they will automatically populate themselves based on what you put in the third column. Okay, no questions? Y'all gonna make this really short. Okay.
Mamie, we also have Ashley Sloan from the FAU, and she just wanted everyone to know also if they have not received their workbook to contact their program manager. So it sounds like, Ashley, you may be able to speak to that, but some of the workbooks have actually gone out.
Yes, ma'am. Everybody should have received it. But if you have not, it's imperative. Get that, let your program manager know so we can figure that out for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Very important that you have the workbook because that's how you get paid. Okay, so if you look here, this is the income statement that I ran for the month, and this is my invoice for that month. The budget, contract budget that you have the definitions or what is included in each of these lines. When we set up, when we migrated to Blackboard, I took the invoices well, at the time it was a policy 3 report that we used to have to do. And it had every line item that matched what was on the contract budget. So that's how I set up my chart of accounts. So my chart of accounts looks very similar to what the invoice looks like. The first row is salary and benefits and taxes. And if you take the income statement, these 3 lines, they total to what you put here. I say this, this is a very good way, an easy way, and a way that works, that you make sure what you have in your general ledger matches what you are sending OCJP, because that's what they're going to audit. And if you can't tell, my background is in finance. So this is why these are things that I've learned over the years that helps you get through your monitoring. So it's not an audit, excuse me, a monitoring. So once you run your income statement And your income statement is based on all of those checks, receipts, other source documentation that you have entered into your general ledger, so it will all flow together. Besides the salaries, benefits, and payroll taxes, line one, the professional fees, grants, and awards. On my grant, it is my audit expenses. I also have subcontractors on this grant, and they all would go into the second line item. I understand that you may have subcontractors on your grants also. Make sure, I'll just say as a side note, that your contracts with your subcontractors meet the requirements that are in the grant manual. It's very important that it is uniform with what OCJP requires. Some subcontractors are under the same rules as you are as their grantee. So keep that in mind. The third line, supplies, postage, print, rent, all kind of stuff is together. That would be everything on my income statement down to mileage. If you add all of those together, you will get the total here of 3619. And like I said, it flows pretty much with what is on the invoice. Mileage and lodging are both in travel. So that's the 2203. The specific assistance is here, total here, and admin expense right there. So I will say it's very important that you put good information in so that you get good information out. And the more detail you put in your general ledger, what makes it huge, and I know this, but it's very easy to track what you are claiming. And that's what OCJP wants. Okay.
Hey, Mamie, quick
Yes.
question. Why don't
Yes.
those two numbers match?
Which two numbers?
So you've got 66,9, 6307 at the bottom of the
Yes.
document on the right, and then 67,605 on the left.
Okay. The things that are charged to my grant are not all allowable under OCJP. I have expenses that we have for this program that I can't claim on the grant, and you need to be very careful that you don't claim stuff that's not allowable.
Sure.
And that's the difference.
Okay.
And that happens a lot. The one thing that I will say, it will never be, the invoice should not ever be more than your income statement. It shouldn't.
Right.
But it can certainly be less.
Okay.
And like the credit for miscellaneous expenses, I must have paid something and then got a refund or something. But miscellaneous is not allowable on this grant anyway. So that would be the difference. And yeah, because I know that when I look at these expenses, even though I have, I don't know, 532 in repairs may not be allowable under this particular grant.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Thanks
have a separate area, maybe, that you keep those things that maybe wrap covers that are not allowable costs for OCJP?
No, and I will tell you why. I will make sure that I don't claim it, but I don't keep it separately because it is a cost of the program. And if someone asks, how much does it cost to run your program? I need to be able to give them an accurate number, even if it's not reimbursable by OCJP. And also, I need OCJP to know I need more money because I can't run this program on what you're giving me. Because, yeah. Okay. So we see this. Okay. So now I'm going to show you what my general ledger looks like. and it's a little detailed. I know, can you see, first of all, can you see this small type? Can everyone, if I need to blow it, let me enlarge it some. Okay.
That's
So the numbers from my income statement comes straight from my general ledger. Now I have X'd out people's names and all they, who they are, so that you don't get to know what I did on the salaries. I didn't on everything else. But anyway, so that you can see these three lines that I had for salary, payroll taxes, and benefits. They're here on my general ledger. My general ledger is very detailed. It's a whole lot of people, whole lot of stuff. So that helps when you run a payroll report for OCJP to look at who is making sure the people that are being paid under the grant are actually the folks that you told them they won't be paid under the grant, that they are actually making what you said you would pay them, and that you're not claiming people that are not covered under this particular grant. As I said, this is where I can tell what I paid, what it was for, who the vendor is. Because, for example, if they look at the invoice and say, under my professional fees, I had $28.50. Well, who did you pay? Well, I paid my CPA firm, which Coward, Reese, and Sargent, and it was for the audit, or this particular portion of the audit that was charged to this grant. I can go to my vendors file, find this particular invoice. The 194185 is the check number, and boom, there it is. That can give it to OCJP, and that is the backup for that particular expense. I can actually do that for all of the expenses that you saw on those invoices. It has who was paid, a check number, or a direct, or if it was, we do a lot of ACH, direct deposit payments now. You can go into the vendor file and look for these vendors, and you would be able to go back to who was paid and substantiate the cost that you asked for reimbursement for. Specific assistance, I think, in talking to Brooke and Chase, that you may have to identify who you actually helped. As I said, here at RAP, we don't use names, but these numbers beside these Walmart receipts are the actual participants' numbers that were assisted with these amounts. I can go in and find a receipt for each one of these amounts with the participant number on it, and it's in my general ledger. So when I say good information in is good information out. So you want to be able to pull the amounts that they ask you for. And I've been monitored by OCJP many times, and they will pick an invoice and they will highlight the entry on the invoice that they want documentation for. For example, specific assistance is always one that they tend to like, and they would highlight that 678, and they would I would have each one of these receipts ready for them when they came to say this is what made up that amount. Let's see. Any questions on general ledger? I know it's a lot. It's a lot. But as I said, if you take the time to put the information in at the beginning, when you are actually writing checks or doing your ACH payments or whatever, it is so much easier that way than to try to go back and find it. Okay. All right, no more on the general ledger. Okay. Travel. One of the things for your travel form, this is one that I made a long time ago, but we still use it today. Grant numbers must be on there somewhere. I happen to have a whole bunch of grants, so all of them are on mine. But if you just have one OCJP grant that you are under, make sure you have the grant and the grant number on the travel expense document. Let's see. Now, this is the actual document we're using now. A couple of things. I have this one right now. OCJP pays, I think state pays 67 cents a mile. The reason why I made the columns in yellow is so that you don't type in those columns. That was just, I thought yellow snow, you don't ever want yellow snow, so don't type in the yellow. And if you just put the number of miles in, it will figure it up for you. I think all of the columns are, at the time I made this form, they were required by OCJP. I don't think the time was, but the place left, the purpose, and all of that. And we also have to attach, we use Google Maps to show the miles that you're claiming. So every line on the travel claim has a map attached to it showing the place left, the place arrived, and how many miles. And you use the miles that's shown on the map. They must match, or it's not going to be allowed. So, and also there are several pages. They are all the same, but they all total back to the front page. So let's see if I put 10 here, it should be more. Yep, it totals back to the front page. So this is something, and like I said, this is something that I made years ago. I'm sure there's more sophisticated stuff out here now. Or you can make your own, but it's something that's uniform, and it's easy to track. Make sure that employees sign it and the supervisor signs it. For any mileage that you are documenting. If you have subcontractors that do mileage, I would highly suggest you provide them with the form and the documentation that you want to see for any amount that they claim. I make it really easy, and everybody use the same thing. They use the same one that you use. Any questions? Okay, y'all are making this too easy. Okay, what's next? Equipment summary report. So if you have equipment that you are purchasing under an OCJP grant, you will have a form at the end of the year, the project equipment summary report. This is a link to it here, and I don't know if it's in the chat or Chase or maybe Brooke will put it in the chat. But anyway, at the end of the year, you will have to fill this form out for every piece of equipment that you purchased under that grant. I made a cheat sheet so that when I got ready to put it in the form, I would have it all together. So as I bought each piece of equipment, I made this spreadsheet to put the information in that I would need at the end of the year. It just helped to make filling out that form a lot easier. I would suggest you do that. Especially, I understand you have some, you could have quite a bit of equipment under this grant purchased. So if you do, this may be something that would be helpful.
I'll just hop in real quick, Mamie. This form is genius and it will save you a lot of time because that form stack does not allow you to save anything. So if you
That's
get to the
right.
end of the year, and don't have any of your stuff kind of already, preloaded, this is really helpful.
That's true. And then don't send form stack unless you save a copy first, because once you send it, it's gone for good. So, as I said, like, this is something that I just made up because I got tired. It was very frustrating when you have as many grants as I managed to have to go and find each one. So just make as many cheat sheets, little shortcuts as you can, because if you record it as you go along, it's a lot easier than trying to find it at the end. Okay, no questions?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So basically, I think generally I've filled this out for previous OCJ grants and we just have basically laptops. However, I kind of see where you have some other, I saw where you had docking station, etc. Now, if we end up purchasing them in different increments at times, is there like a dollar limit of what we have to record on this equipment summary report? Is it a certain amount over, or would you just kind of, even though we purchased them maybe at a couple different times, but it was for this specific laptop, include it and together, add the number amounts together?
Okay, so this is for sensitive equipment, and I think sensitive equipment is, I think it's $500 if it's sensitive equipment. Check the grant manual because it specifically describes what is considered sensitive equipment. Any other equipment, I think you go by whatever your policy says. So, I think our policy equipment is 5,000, but when you purchase sensitive equipment that can be easily moved around, OCJP wants to know what it is. And we would buy the docking stations and the monitors and all of that from one vendor at one time. There are times where I didn't buy them all at one time, but I think the docking station and the monitors are considered sensitive equipment. So you need to make sure you record whenever it is that you bought it. So I would say what I will reiterate is make sure the definition of sensitive equipment, you follow whatever the grant manual says. And I know for sure it's not a dollar limit. It's more about what it is you're purchasing.
All right, thank you.
And also you need to keep an inventory of this equipment also just at your agency so that when you take it out of commission. They will be looking at an inventory. They will expect to see an inventory of all equipment. Just so that they know that you're keeping up with where it is and you know where it is. Okay.
We do have a question really quick, Mamie, from the chat.
Yes.
Mary Lou would like to know, is this form required for both capital purchase or supply purchases, which are charged to either of those categories dependent on the price?
Okay, so under not capital, it has not been, and I have never had an OCJP grant that would pay for capital expenses. So let me say that. And as far as supplies, I'm not sure because Brooke and you and I talked about what this specific grant will require. At one time, RAP received an equipment grant from OCJP, from Boca, and we had to list everything that we purchased. Regardless of whatever the cost was, we had to list it all. I don't know if this grant is going to require you to do that or not. If your policy, you should have as an agency a capitalization policy. If you capitalize a certain monetary level as a capital purchase, then you don't have to keep up with this. I haven't. I mean, not in this form. You would keep up with it because it would be on my general ledger in assets because it's capitalized. As far as supplies being this detailing, you having to know a list of the supplies you purchased, that would depend on what Tennessee Strong Families tells you. And at this point, I'm not sure. Brooke, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So that would be a OCJP question. Any more questions? Okay. Let's see what's next. Oh, allowable and unallowable. Make sure, as I said, when I run my general ledger, run my income statement, I know there are things that may not be allowable under this grant, and you have to make sure that you don't claim them on your invoice when you are invoicing. And the list of allowable, I'm sure you're all familiar with what you can claim under this grant, and unallowable what you can't claim. So I'm not going to go into any specifics. Like I said, I know specifically for Tennessee Strong Families, you've been given that information, and it's also in the OCJP grant manual. So please, the grant manual, I can't stress enough, is like your guide to everything. So use it, get to know it, make it your friend, because it will be something that you will refer to over and over and over again. And also, I'll just say, if you call your program manager, that's going to be the first thing they say. Did you look in the grant manual, and what does it say? So, or they're going to lead you to the grant manual. So get to know it. Okay. Any questions on allowable, unallowable? Prior OCJ approval. So once you get your grant budget, when you get your workbook and it has your contract budget on there, that's pretty much set in stone, except there is a 20% rule that you can go over 20% or under 20% on a line item without prior approval. And that's explained in the grant manual. But there are line items that you cannot do that automatically. Salaries, specific assistance, and indirect costs. You cannot change those without prior approval. In your supply line item, there is a line for sensitive minor equipment, which is what I was talking about, computers, stuff that move around really easily. You can't change that without prior approval. Can't buy furniture, without prior approval. So those are things that you will have to talk to your program manager about before you change any of that. but there is a 20% rule in the grant manual if you, that you do have the freedom of moving some money around. Any questions?
I have a question, sorry.
Sure, please.
Is there a form that we have to receive approval from, depending on the program manager, or is it just more or less like an email?
It's an email.
Just an
That's what it has been for me in the past. You email and ask. This is how I have worked with my program managers. I email and tell them, ask them or explain what I want to do, and why I want to do it. And they will follow up with an email saying, based on this, I approve you doing whatever it is you want to do. And keep those emails. I myself keep all my correspondence with all of my program directors. It's good practice. And it's great practice to, although I do call sometime and talk on the phone, I follow up with an email to make sure, this is based on our conversation, da, 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 and just to keep it, that I have it. And, a lot of it is by email. So you want to make sure you keep those emails. Any other questions? You all have been great. You don't have any questions. Okay. The grant paid staff activity tracking, I'm gonna let Brooke and Chase left us. I will let them talk about this aspect.
Yeah, so we just came up with these easy examples within our own Outlook calendars, just to give you all an example of how you may want to track the time that you're charging to the grant. You'll just see on the left that that would be someone who works 100% only on the Strong Families grant. So I kind of kept it all in blue. Again, sometimes if it's more than an hour or two, I might open up that Outlook appointment and kind of make more notes in there. This is why it took me so long or whatever to do this. And then on the right, you'll see I kind of color coded it. Outlook is really good about allowing you to color code, and just labeled it Strong Families for the things in green that they did for Strong Families. And then, the things in blue would be charged to another grant or whatever other program that they may be working on. Just so that you can have record of the activities that you did on the grant, since you are charging for that as well. And if you need any other examples or other programs or whatever to track your time, please reach out to our help desk and we'll make sure we can support you with that.
Okay. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you for listening. I hope it helped. Please feel free to contact Brooke or Chase. Any questions? My email, if you go to raptn.org, you can get my email there. Like I said, if you have any questions, if I can be of any help, please let me know. I hope I did okay and didn't confuse anybody.
No, this was super awesome, Mamie. We're really thankful that you made all these systems and you're willing to share things with us, and gave us some really good examples and ways to track things. I'm all about a good system, so we love that. And I'll kind of hang on here if there's any other questions that come up. But again, Chase has put our help desk number and email in the chat as well. Please reach out to us. If we can't figure it out, Darrell can figure it out. If we can't figure it out, we can call Mamie and get some support. Our training evaluation is linked here, but I'll also send that out in my follow-up email with all of our examples this afternoon. And then, of course, as always, our recording will be posted on our website very soon as well. But we'll go ahead and hang on. It looks like we may have a couple questions in the chat. Yes, we'll post the webinar on our website. And Chase, did you put our website in the chat?
Yeah, it's in there.
Perfect. Yep. So we'll do that. And then Amber asked, is the mileage form required for all gas purchase for reimbursement?
I think gas purchase is different from mileage form in my mind. I under strong families, I'm not sure. I'm thinking our form is when our advocates move around and have to move people, and that's what those mileage forms are for. If you are doing a gas purchase for, say, a family, then I think the receipt of the purchase would be something, like any other receipt that you would use the requisition form for, and charge it to to that grant, and make sure you have participants number on the receipt, on the form. But the mileage form that I just showed you, the example, was for mileage, not necessarily gas purchases.
Good question.
Thank you, Mamie. That makes sense.
You're welcome.
Any other asked, is there a basic chart of accounts?
Ugh. Like I said, when I set up the chart of accounts for us, I used the expenses as they're allocated on what we would used to have a policy 03 form, where we have to put all our expenses on. I'm going to send Brooke that form, a copy of it, and I just used the way that OCJP categorizes expenses. That's how I set up my chart of account. So I don't have a sample, but because if I sent you mine is several pages long because of all this different stuff I do. But I can send you that. I'll get Brooke and Chase to have that form so you can look at it.
And Mamie, Brooke and Chase have the financial section of the practice guide where the chart, which also has the chart of accounts
Oh, okay.
sort of listed. So they already have access to that and
Oh,
could
good.
provide that. That's sort of a cool.
Thanks again for viewing our webinar, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have fiscal documentation questions. You may email our help desk at strongfamilies@utk.edu or call us at 844-887-9677. Thanks and have a great day.